We appreciate you all coming out tonight. Before we get started, I do want to preface this press conference by letting you all know that this information is very preliminary. This was a very active scene. There was a lot of things that took place during the time that officers have been out here. And right now, as I confirmed through Twitter, we do have an officer-involved shooting that occurred in the 600 block of Garth Avenue. It started out at 6:25 p.m. when officers received information that there was a weapons incident in the 100 block of Oak Street. Officers responded to that area. The information that they had received was that there was an individual, a male suspect, walking around the area armed with a firearm, and had been actually shooting rounds off from that firearm. Once officers arrived, the subject did start firing rounds at the officers. The officers established a perimeter. The suspect was able to escape the perimeter and ran into the woods. Officers then located the subject again here in the 600 block of Garth Avenue. He was actually on top of a building and began firing rounds again. Once officers showed up to the scene, this particular scene, rounds were fired at the officers. Officers then returned gunfire, striking the suspect. The suspect was transported to a local hospital with injuries. Right now his condition is unknown. At this point, the Missouri State Highway Patrol will be taking over the investigation, again because it is an officer-involved shooting. That is our protocol in these circumstances. On scene we had the Columbia Police Department, we had the Boone County Sheriff's Department. Highway Patrol will be en route but was not part of the actual active scene, but they will be taking over the investigation.
Are they on scene now?
I have not been told that yet.
And do you know how many rounds officers fired at the suspect on the building?
I do not have an exact number.
I was told by a witness that it was a single shot.
That could be very well the case. Again, I do not have a specific number.
Okay. And, what was it the victim's wound or the suspect's wound considered life-threatening when he was leaving the scene?
At this time, the information that I received was that he just received treatment from emergency medical services and was transported to a local hospital. So I do not have the condition or whether or not his injuries were life-threatening.
Have the residents of the area been notified or told anything?
Officers have been actively speaking to people in the area. Again, just based off of this large amount of scene, there's a lot of people to make contact with, a lot of witness statements to take. So we're talking this investigation could go on several more hours still.
Were there any neighbors or residents hit?
There was no further reported injuries or property damage from any of the gunfire that was fired tonight.
So you mentioned that the suspect ran into the woods and was on top of the roof. What order were those, and what building was he on top of?
So the first incident that I mentioned, he was actually in the 100 block of Oak Street. That was the incident then where he escaped the perimeter, had ran into the woods. And so after that, officers then located him in the 600 block of Garth Avenue on a roof. And so that would be right behind me over here.
What building?
The building that's right in front of Oak Towers.
What kind of gun was he carrying? How many bullets do we know did he fire?
I won't be releasing any of that information at this time. Again, it's this whole investigation will be transferred over to the Missouri State Highway Patrol. They will be releasing any further details.
Aside from the original call about the weapons incident, was there any calls about someone yelling, or do we know his condition before this started happening? What maybe led up to him doing this?
My understanding was that there were several threats made and that gunfire was going off, and so that was what then took the calls into joint communications referencing the weapons incident. So that was how our officers became dispatched.
So the threats, who was he threatening someone or someone threatening him? I
don't have the details on that.
And then there was a woman, don't know if she was involved or a bystander, but the Bearcat was brought in to get her out. Can you talk about that process?
I don't have the details on what the process was with that, and that would all be part of the investigation anyway, but I do know that the Bearcat was, yes, it was brought out to the scene for this incident.
What is the duty status of the officers who discharge their weapons?
So there is a policy in place that typically officers will go on administrative leave until the investigation is complete through the Highway Patrol, until the command staff makes a decision otherwise.
Does the department intend to release the name? If the officer who fired the shot can be identified, will the public know that?
That'll all be part of Missouri State Highway Patrol's investigation.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.